With Hardcore Self-Found mode just around the corner, I've decided to put together a guide with many different tips and tricks you will find useful. And if you plan to just play normal Hardcore, then you can still use all of these things, as they will definitely help you on your journey to level 60. So because we won't be using the auction house, trade system or mailbox, then I would highly recommend you to level up the secondary profession, fishing. With fishing, you can find these floating debris and even floating wreckage where you can get different trunks. And in these trunks you can get many different things. For example, leatherworking and tailoring materials, consumables, yeah, even green items. One thing I learned on my own journey was that Hardcore is not about rushing the game. No, you're supposed to take your time and making sure you have different things that will also increase your chance of surviving. Therefore, I would highly recommend you to get an add-on that scans for rare enemies in your area. Sometimes these will be patrolling and also have different special abilities, and if you accidentally pull these, you could potentially also end up dying. However, I'm not saying you should avoid rares at any cost, because there also has a high chance of dropping a green item that could help you level up even quicker. The add-on that I'm using is not only scanning for rare enemies, no, also elites that will one-shot you, for example this dragon or maybe even Stitches in Duskwood. In fact, it will also be doing a lot of other useful things that will increase your chance of successfully making it to 60. I'll get back to this add-on later in the video. Because we can't just go to the auction house and purchase ourselves bags, or well, also because our character will be completely fresh, then you can get 4 additional slots of inventory space, simply by adding an authenticator to your Battle.net account. Just go to battle.net, log in, and enable your authenticator and enjoy your 20 slot backpack. Make sure not to train every single thing, either from a class trainer or profession wise. There's gonna be things you could skip to also save yourself a lot of silver and in the end a lot of gold. This is going to be important if you make it all the way up to level 40, because by then you can probably also afford your mount a lot quicker. This is why you should also plan your talent tree, else you could end up spending a lot of gold having to respec all the time. For those of you not familiar with every single quest in the game, get the add-on Questie. This will mark all the different locations you can go to in order to complete certain quests in the game. It will also show you where you can pick up new quests and of course where you need to hand them in. On the map it will now also display all the different mailbox and flight masters. In solo self-found mode it's going to be so much more important to also know all the different vendor locations where you can purchase yourself consumables or maybe even new green items. The good thing is that there's an add-on to track all these locations, CPT, Statics Vendor Treasures. On your map there will now be a lot of small icons indicating locations of different vendors, and by left clicking on these icons you can also know what you can purchase at that specific location. It can be quite difficult to solo an elite, but did you know we can use guards to also prevent this from being difficult? All you need to do is 50% of the target's total health and damage, and then you will also be rewarded credit and be able to loot the NPC when you kill it. So what is the best profession in Hardcore? Well, in my opinion there's 2 different good choices. It's gonna be to either pick engineering and mining for target dummies and other grenades that will help you in case you make a mistake, or alchemy and herbalism so you can make yourself swiftness potions and other consumables that will be useful if you make a mistake. Of course, if you were not playing solo self-found mode, then you could just level up engineering and then purchase swiftness potions on the auction house, and that way benefit from both professions. But what if I only had one choice between these 2 professions? Then it would definitely be engineering. It saved me way more times on my journey to level 60 compared to having the swiftness potions. Also remember, if you use a healing potion, the swiftness potion will also be on a cooldown. So this way you can use your target dummy and still use a healing potion or mana potion. And even though we don't have alchemy, then we can still get the healing and mana potions simply by visiting the different vendors in the open world or just leveling up our fishing. There's a nice Hearthstone trick you can use. When you're about to cast this and travel to your bound location, then you can bind it to another location but still teleport to the old one. So when you teleport to the old one, you're now bound to, for example, Goldshire, even though I'm being teleported to the human starting zone. Yeah, it's not useful here, but imagine if you were higher level and you had to go from one continent to another and then 1 hour later go back to the other one. In that situation, this trick would definitely help you. To make sure I bind my Hearthstone at the right time, I use an add-on. The same add-on that we're also scanning for rare creatures, and this is even a hardcore leveling guide as well. So when you log in, you can choose many different things. enabling hostile enemy warning, auction house if you don't plan to play solo self-found mode, group quest if you would like to level up with other people, and even dungeons. If you enable group and dungeon quest, then when you're leveling, it will also tell you where you need to hit at specific levels in order to acquire these at the perfect time. Else, yeah, you just follow the guide, and it will tell you in what order you need to do different quests in order to level as efficient as possible. It will also tell you what quest you should not pick up, because it's going to be way too dangerous. It's so easy to follow the guide. There's going to be different steps, and if you need to talk to an NPC or kill it, it will also mark this with an icon. On your map, there will also be displayed different numbers. These indicates where you will need to head next. By using the link below this video, you will be redirected to where you also download this add-on. And there's a free version you can use all the way up to level 21. And if you would like to use this all the way up to 60 like I'm planning to do, then you can also purchase the full guide and use my discount code GUIDEMMO. When you're leveling up, there's one thing you should always pay attention to: nearby chest. In these you can get many different things: materials, consumables, bags, yeah, even rare and green items. For that particular reason, I also enjoy playing a dwarf. As a dwarf you have an amazing racial that tracks nearby locations of chest, and these will be displayed on your minimap. What's also happening here is that I'm able to track a chest from far distance. This is because I've lowered my graphics, so all objects at far distance will be removed, unless it's of course a chest or something else I can interact with. To do this yourself, go to your graphic settings and reduce your environment detail and ground clouder all the way down to the lowest possible. To get even more gold, you should also get 2 add-ons, or well, one of these at least: Vendor Price or Better Vendor Price. When you're about to choose a quest reward, it will now also display the vendor price, so you can choose the most expensive one if you don't really need the reward. That way you can also end up getting a lot more gold as you're leveling up. For those of you that would like to do dungeons, make sure you're overleveled. That way there's a way lower chance you will also accidentally pull nearby enemies, but also because when you enter the dungeon, and if you're already at the same level as those creatures, then as you're moving further into the dungeon, some of the creatures will also slowly increase in their level range. In Stargates, the first creatures were for example level 23, but the last one level 29. This is also the exact same when you're leveling with questing. You should not be doing orange or red quest all the time. No, just make sure to do green or yellow quest. They still reward a lot of experience, and they're a lot easier to do compared to a red quest, where you will also miss or resist a lot of your attacks. When I go into a cave, there's a few things I always prepare. Having an escape route, making sure I have an important cooldown or maybe even a healing potion, and of course also my Hearthstone ready. So if I need to make an emergency exit, then I could jump on top of an object and then use my Hearthstone. And as a warrior, you should never charge in or use your pet as a hunter here. If you do this, there's also a high chance you could potentially body pull a lot more creatures, and if you don't have anything ready or an escape route, then you could also die. There's different ways to avoid damage or well evade the fight. Simply by jumping on top of many objects where the creatures can't reach you, or like I do in this case, jump up here and then use my Hearthstone to get out. And talking about my Hearthstone, if I do a dungeon, then I always make sure this is ready in case someone accidentally pull a lot of creatures or try to grief me. Another thing that can also kill you is randomly disconnecting. And yes, this can happen, especially if you have a lot of add-ons enabled at the same time. If you disconnect, disable all your add-ons as quickly as possible, so your login screen will also be quicker. This will increase your chance of surviving. To increase your chance of surviving even further, you should also prioritize getting as much stamina as possible. This is going to be useful if you pull too many enemies or if you disconnect. Take a look at what happens when I do this on my level 59 mage. Every time I'm being hit, I take around 1 to 2% of my total health in damage. This is not much, especially because if you disconnect, then you have a 30 seconds window where you will also stay online. After 30 seconds, you will then be locked out. So with a high health pool, you can definitely survive this. But what if you disconnect at an area where there could also be spawning a lot of creatures? Then you should go to battle.net, World of Warcraft, Stock Character Service, and here you can then enable the character you would like to unstock. This will take you to the nearest graveyard, so you can also survive this way simply by moving your character, and then the next time you log in, you will also be taken to a safe area. There's one more add-on I highly recommend you, HC Breatbar. This will enlarge your Breatbar and even display the remaining time in seconds. And when the timer gets to below 20 seconds, there will also be a loud warning sound. Many people actually die in hardcore because they're drowning, so make sure to get this add-on. No matter what class you're playing, then another secondary profession you should also level up is First Aid. You could then slow a target, run away, use your bandage, or maybe even CC and get a lot of health. And yeah, you could be a healer, but what if you're out of mana, then you can't really heal yourself, and this way the bandage might also save your life. When you're questing, you sometimes receive food that also provide you with a food buff for a short duration. This I would highly recommend you to keep for more difficult situations, for example if you have to solo a difficult target. I hope you found this guide useful. If you would like to see more hardcore content, make sure to check out my channel. I wish you the best of luck with your journey to level 60.